Gauls, one of the most intriguing Celtic peoples of ancient Europe. And imagine it's the Iron Age, and these bold tribal communities, known as the Gauls, were thriving across mainland Europe. Their homeland, called Gaul by the Romans, covered much of modern France and parts of Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, and beyond. They spoke a language called Gaulish, a unique branch of the Celtic family. The Gauls really began to shine around the 5th century BC, tied to the Latin culture that emerged north and west of the Alps. By the 4th century BC, they had spread far and wide, taking control of vital trade routes along rivers like the Rhone, Seine, Rhine, and Danube. These trade connections helped them grow into a powerful force, peaking in the 3rd century BC. Their adventurous spirit wasn't confined to their homeland though. By the 4th and 3rd centuries BC, they had expanded into northern Italy, sparking fierce conflicts with the Romans. They also ventured into the Balkans, clashing with the Greeks. Some of these Gauls eventually settled in what's now Turkey, becoming known as the Galatians. The Romans, however, weren't ones to back down. After the First Punic War, the Roman Republic began pressuring the Gauls. This tension came to a head at the Battle of Telamon in 225 BC, marking the start of the Gauls' decline. By the time of Julius Caesar's Gallic Wars between 58 and 50 BC, the Romans had conquered Gaul, transforming it into a Roman province. This fusion of cultures gave rise to the hybrid Gallo-Roman civilization. Despite their tribal nature, the Gauls weren't without organization. They built impressive fortified settlements called oppida, and even minted their own coins. While they never united under a single ruler, they showed remarkable solidarity when it came to defending their lands. Leaders like Brennus and Vercingetorix led massive armies, proving the Gauls were no pushovers. Their spiritual life was equally rich, with Druids playing a central role in their ancient Celtic religion. They even developed their own calendar, known as the Coligny calendar. Now let's talk about their name. The word Gaul has fascinating roots. The Latin term Galli likely comes from a Celtic word meaning power or ability. Even their names in other languages, like the Greek Galatai or the French word gaillard, reflect their vigor and strength. And interestingly, the English term Gaul isn't from Latin but from a Germanic word linked to the Gallic tribe Volcae. Their culture traces back to the Urnfield culture of around 1300 BC, evolving through the Hallstatt period and into the vibrant Latin culture. Greek and Etruscan influences shaped their development, especially in the Mediterranean areas. Around 390 BC, under a leader named Brennus, they even managed to sack Rome. Later, they moved into northern Italy, clashing repeatedly with the Romans, while others ventured east into the Balkans and beyond. The Gauls' eastern expansions weren't without drama. In Greece, their invasions faced fierce resistance. During their first foray in 279 BC, they even killed a Macedonian king, but met their match against united Greek forces. Their second attempt, under another Brennus, brought them closer to victory at Thermopylae, yet their ambition led them to Delphi, where disaster struck. Most of their army was wiped out, and Brennus, seriously injured, took his own life. And after their dramatic defeat by Antiochus Epiphanes and his war elephants, their story didn't end. It just shifted gears. They still held sway in Asia Minor, demanding tribute to keep their swords sheathed. And you know what? It worked for a while. Even the powerful Hellenistic states would rather pay up than face them in battle. But the Galatians weren't just sitting around counting their coins. These warriors found new opportunities as mercenaries, and one of their most notorious gigs was for the Ptolemies in Egypt. Imagine this: 4,000 Galatians shipped off to serve Ptolemy II, Philadelphus. That might sound like a sweet deal, but it didn't take long for things to go south. According to ancient accounts, the Galatians tried to pull a fast one and plotted to seize Egypt for themselves. Ptolemy, not one to mess around, trapped them on a deserted island in the Nile. Talk about a one-way ticket. Even so, the Galatians weren't done making waves. They popped up again in major battles like Raphia in 217 BC, under Ptolemy IV, continuing to lend their strength to the Ptolemaic dynasty all the way until its fall. But their story wasn't confined to Egypt. Back in Asia Minor, they teamed up with Antiochus Hierax, a Seleucid prince gone rogue. He clashed with Attalus I of Pergamum, but that alliance didn't end well for the Galatians. At the Battle of the Sacus River, the united Hellenistic cities under Attalus dealt them a crushing defeat. Even after that, the Galatians remained a thorn in the side of Asia Minor's rulers, proving time and again that they weren't easily subdued. In 189 BC, Gnaeus Manlius Vulso led the Romans against them in the Galatian War, delivering another heavy blow. But the Galatians, tough as nails, survived and adapted. By the time of the Mithridatic Wars, they had shifted alliances and supported Rome. This loyalty, or pragmatism, paid off. When peace returned, Rome restructured Galatia into a client state in 64 BC. It wasn't the Galatia of old, though. The tribal constitution was replaced with Roman-appointed leaders, and before long, Deiotarus emerged as the dominant figure, even earning recognition as king from none other than Julius Caesar. Now let's talk about the physical presence of these Gauls. They left an impression on anyone who saw them. Roman poets and historians described them as tall, muscular, and light-skinned, with striking blonde or reddish hair. They had a unique habit of washing their hair with lime water, pulling it back to give it that wild, wind-swept look. Their mustaches were iconic, often grown so long they nearly covered their mouths. And their fashion? Bold striped cloaks and gold jewelry that gleamed in the sun. It was a statement. Writers like Diodorus Siculus and Virgil weren't shy about highlighting their imposing appearance. They painted a picture of warriors who were as much about show as they were about skill. Even Tacitus, centuries later, drew comparisons between the red-haired, large-limbed Caledonians of Britain and their Gallic cousins. The Gauls clearly stood out, not just in battle, but in the minds of those who encountered them. This cultural and physical distinctiveness didn't fade overnight. The Gallic language lingered in Anatolia until the 6th century, a reminder of their enduring presence. And their influence wasn't just limited to Anatolia. Across the Roman world, the Gauls played pivotal roles, especially in the Roman military.